Hello, hello. Hey guys. Good morning. How are you all doing today? Let me unmute you all really quick. All right, there we go. How are you guys doing today? Fine, good. All right, good. See what we got in here. All right, Jessica. Is Jeremy on today?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, there's that. And I think I'm missing Sam. Is Sam in here yet?
No, Sam's not in here yet.
Okay. All right, and there's Jeremy. All right, guys. Well, Jeremy, today is your birthday, if I remember correctly.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So in honor of you, happy birthday to you. So since we can't really have a party, I'm so sorry. It's so sad. I'm trying to bring the party to you as much as I can. It's kind of sad, but that's what we got. Sorry. How are you guys doing today? Doing well? Yeah. All right. Well, let me remind you about our participation points. So today you gain 1 point for attending. So good for you who attended. You get a second point for your audio and your video. You'll be able to hear you and see you. Makes your second point. And your third point is your involvement. As much as you get involved, you get your third point as well. So 3 points come to you for that. Sam, good to see you. How are you doing?
Tired, like usual.
Well, and probably you're all more tired since you actually had to do brain work yesterday. A few of you get to physically work still some of your jobs, but the rest of you had got to do the brain work yesterday. Alexa, stop. All right, so I'm going to mute you all. We're going to go into our lesson unless anybody wants to say hello again or another happy birthday to Jerry before we go silent for a little bit. Y'all good? Yeah, we're good. Okay. All right, then muting we go. All right, today we're going to open up our textbooks to our workbook, page 73. Workbook, page 73. All right, page 73. Hopefully you're all there. All right, we're going to review a couple more things. So here we have idiom. Idiom is an expression peculiar to a language and which cannot be easily explained. And some of our idioms to be used correctly would be like accused of would be a correct usage of that idiom. Adept in, different from, not different of, independent of, not independent from. A lot of people say that one. Plan to work, prefer one to another, or unequal to. These are some idioms we had looked at prior to our 2-week break. And these idioms, that's how we can use some of these correctly. I'm just highlighting a few back in your actual handbook, or a whole bunch more. This is just a few I want to highlight and bring to our attention. All right, another thing we looked at was gobbledygook. Gobbledygook is a fun one to say. This was a language of officialdom, or pompous and wordy. Some examples would be like pupil stations, simply meaning desks. Human interment space, simply meaning a cemetery. Viable role models, simply meaning heroes. All right, but instead of just saying heroes, we use gobbledygook like viable role models. So that was just some examples of some gobbledygook. Another thing we looked at was jargon. Jargon is technical terms used in a particular trade. So it kind of makes sense if you're talking to people in that trade, they understand what you're saying. Otherwise, we can correct this by simply keeping our writing simple. Or if I do need to use a term that's to a specific trade, I need to be sure that I use it correctly, of course, and then that I define it. Because the average person outside of that trade isn't going to know what we're talking about. I forgot to do a sound check. Everybody hears me fine? Are we good? Okay, so I'll make sure my audio is working fine. All right, so that's jargon. Another one we looked at before the break was triteness. Triteness is an expression which are dull or stale because of overuse. And we looked at some of those things being like food for thought, or busy as a bee, slow as molasses, dead as a doornail, depths of despair. and few and far between are a few trite expressions that are overused. And if you can find something else to say in its place, just say what you mean to be saying. Another one we looked at was wordiness. Wordiness, simply omit needless words. All right, so I can solve that problem. Make one's writing crisper, leaner, more energetic, more forceful. An example of that would be somebody might say at this point in time. Okay, well you simply could have just said now, and that would have said it. Or destroyed by fire. Okay, we could have simply just said burn. All right, and that would have said it. So again, and we have wordiness that we could just be more crisp, omit some extra words that aren't really necessary. Again, it's where using precise and clear, vivid adjectives and nouns would definitely be useful and helpful. So that's just a quick review of some of these things we've talked about before. So let's look at page 73. We're going to do today exercise 135 through 139, so all the way to page 75. All right, so I'm going to actually give you a few minutes right now. Then we're going to talk about them, and then we're going to move into some literature. So at this moment, I'm going to put up a seat work time sign, just so you know. We'll take a small break from this and go to that. So I hope that you take this time now to go ahead and work on your seat work, and then we'll come back in and talk about it. So for live stream, if you are YouTube live, these are seat work signs, just so you know, that's what we're doing at this moment. And then we'll come back to this in just a moment, and we'll answer these and move into some literature. Alexa, continue. Oh, I forgot I have happy birthday. About 5 more minutes. As you finish, if you don't mind just putting a thumbs up or a clap hands if you finish. Let's see if we can kind of wrap this up a little bit, move into literature. All right, guys, are you guys getting pretty close to being done?
Yeah.
All right, Alexa, stop. All right. Let's go ahead and see how those answers are doing. Then we're going to move over to some literature. I have a literature video if it'll work. I'm having a hard time trying to figure out how you guys get to hear it. I thought maybe if I play it out loud on my computer speaker, it would work. I've tried headphones, so we'll see. I push a couple more buttons this time. We'll see if I found it, but hopefully it'll work and we can watch a little video before we move to literature next. But at this point, let's go ahead to page 73, and let's just go ahead and see. I'm going to mute you all back again. And then I'll just unmute each person as I asked you to tell us what you did with it. So page 73, exercise 135, reviewing our idioms. So this time we're looking for avoiding wordy and trite expressions. So taking some things, moving it down, or idioms that are maybe not used correctly. These were in our handbook sections 31.1 and 31.2. If you are struggling with it, hopefully you went back to that and looked to see, especially with the idioms, how to use them correctly. So that being said, number one, let's go ahead and start with Anaya, if you don't mind. Number one, what did you fix?
The state law prohibits truck drivers from driving more than 65 miles per hour.
Good. So to drive needed to change to from driving. Good job. Thank you for that. All right, Jeremy, if you wouldn't mind, you have to unmute yourself and tell us what you fixed with number two.
I put that witness is mine to defend the shadow running to speed.
All right, good. You just removed the slang. We didn't need like a dog. Yeah. Good job. Good catch. All right, Jessica, if you wouldn't mind number three, what did you do at number three?
It just sit down, the judge five, Charles yell.
So you're out on your ear. What a weird phrase, right? So you're out of this courtroom. Like maybe make that more specific to where we're actually throwing them out from. All right, good job. Thank you. Chloe, you wouldn't mind number 4. What did you think about number 4?
The defendant was charged with concerted abuse.
All right, good. Not for, but with. Good job, good catch. All right, Michaela, number 5.
I think put quickly into a matter of mentality.
Okay, yeah, that would work. My father can change a flat tire quickly, or my father can change a flat tire in just a few minutes. Not necessarily a matter of minutes. Quickly was a good change of words for that. That would work. All right, next page. Zach. Oh, do you want this one? That's complicated. So how about I unmute all of you, and let's see what we decided to do with this. We'll come back to you, Zach, on page exercise 137, number 1, all right? So be sure you have that one ready. But number 1, exercise 136, this is a big old paragraph. Could anybody tell me maybe what you condensed it down to? Just made it more clear, got rid of some of that gobbledygook, some of that jargon, some of those, expressions, or not those expressions, but those very terms that have to do with, a specific job, career, things like that. So what did anybody decide about this? Did you understand some of it? Like adversary adjudication, adjudication? No? All right, that's simply saying a lawsuit. It simply was a lawsuit. All right, so see all that wordy stuff, you're like, what in the world is going on? That's what that was talking about. So if in a lawsuit arising from an agency action to force a party's obedience, that's kind of what we're looking at. Compliance or obedience, that's the better word for it, with a statutory or regulatory requirement. We could have just said with a particular law, all right, instead of all that wordiness. The demand of the agency is, all right, somebody say, what did you do for substantially? What does that mean? What kind of word could I have chosen instead of substantially? Anybody have an opinion? Our brain's still fuzzy from 2 weeks off. Yeah. Okay, so substantially I could have said excessive instead of that, and just simply said agency is proved excessive or unreasonable. The judge shall require the agency to pay the party's legal fees and other expenses relating to the lawsuit. That's really all he was trying to say in those next 3 lines, was just simply that. So a lot of things can go away and don't need to be in there. It sounds really impressive, sounds super important, but it's also very confusing. So again, just knocking those things down and specifically saying what we really mean to say is a helpful thing. All right, let's go on to exercise 137. Zach, for number 1, what did you decide about that?
To start off, we start with clothes. Start with
All right, do that for me one more time. What did you decide to do?
to break the ice, but just start off.
Okay, to start off. All right, that would work. To start off, we decided to play a game of charades. All right, that's a good way. Or to help everyone relax was the whole point of breaking the ice. Right, help everyone relax, or to get to know one another, we did this. To break the ice is an expression that does say that, if you know the expression. If you don't know the expression, you're kind of like, why are we breaking ice again? Some poor Ukrainian person's going, what just happened? You tried to sign that, the deaf are going, why are we breaking ice? So expressions can be lost on us if we don't know exactly what's going on. All right, so that was a good choice, though, Zach. Good choice on that one. Let's see, who have not we asked yet? Travis, your turn. Your turn, number 2. What did you think about that?
I just changed a fate worse than death to horrible. So my sister thinks that summer school is horrible.
Okay, right. My sister thinks that summer school is horrible instead of a fate worse than death. So dramatic. You like drama? You would like that phrase instead. Or is the worst thing that could happen to her, or what you said is perfectly fine. All right, number 3, your turn. Okay, all right, that works. A dark horse is a little less understood than underdog. That was a good expression if you were going to switch it. Took the greatest share. Is that what you said, or something like that? The largest.
Took a large sum.
A large sum. Okay, that was a good one to use too. If we still don't want to use the expression for a dark horse, you could say something like, really what it's trying to say, he's an unlikely candidate. So you could say that instead. But your choices were fine too. Those worked really well. All right, exercise 138. I think we've gone through everyone. Let me look at my screen. Yep, you all did. So we'll just start back again. Number 1, I think I may have started with Anaya. So back to you, my friend. Number 1, how did you rewrite this and to get rid of some wordiness?
Kate left her locker quickly and ran toward the office.
All right, perfect. That was a great solution to knock that sentence down. Just simply, Kate left her locker quickly and ran toward the office. Good choice. You could use the word hastily if you thought that was, if you wanted to still use it, just need to change it to an adverb. All right, good choice. Jeremy, you have to unmute yourself at number 2. Would you mind telling us what you knocked that sentence down to?
Actually, since Monday is a holiday, my classmate moved to Tuesday at 4 p.m.
All right, good. We don't say PM in the afternoon because it repeats itself. It's duplicating. Good job. And just knock that down in view of the fact, because, or since. All right, good job. Nice choice. All right, Jessica, number 3 for you.
I just crossed out to which the president belongs.
Okay, so read the sentence for us. Taking it out then.
Uncle Tom always gives his support to the president in times of war, regardless of the political party.
Okay, all right, that would work. Yep. You could change it a little more if you wanted to say Uncle Tom always supports, because gives his support. Support is the same thing. You could just take that down to just one. Always supports the president in wartime. You don't have to say in times of war type is that. You could do it either way though, regardless of the president's political party. Good choice. All right, and then number 4, Chloe.
All the parents finding some kind of extracurricular activity.
All right, good job. That's perfect, right? That's the best way to probably knock that one down. And lastly, exercise 139, reviewing the word. Edit the words in the following sentences. Rewrite your sentences, improving them. So let's just see what you decided about improving this sentence. All right, Michaela, you have number 1. How did you decide to improve that? Okay, then we'll come back to you for number 1. Number 2, Zach, why don't you tell us number 2? What did you think? What was another way you could have said this sentence or cleaned it up?
Probably. That's not the number 1. That's traffic right there.
All right, well, let's think about number 2. We'll come back to you too, okay? All right, 1 for Michaela, 2 for Zach. We'll come back. Travis, number 3. Oh, you have to unmute yourself, bud.
You're gonna hate me. I didn't know we had to do 139. I didn't do. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Probably everybody missed that. I'll just give you a minute. How about you'll do number 3? Jeremy, would you happen to have number 4 done?
Let's say, probably not.
Okay, we'll come back to you too. That's okay. I might not have made that very clear. We'll come back to you. And then Sam, you'll have number 5. Do you have that one already done, or come back to you too?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, so let's listen to number 5, and then we'll go back through and have each one of the other people read theirs. So what would you do about number 5 to get rid of wordiness and fix it up a little bit?
Because fiberglass would use for insulation purposes in the building of the house, it still gets warm inside of the house.
Okay. All right, that could work. Yeah. Another way maybe we could put it would be, although fiberglass was used to insulate the house, it still gets quite warm inside the house on those long summer afternoons. Be another way to do that. Your way would work just fine and cleaned it up a little bit, made it a little more clear. All right, good. All right, so let's go back and see if the other people, if they've been able to have a chance now. We give them a couple minutes to see what they would do about that. So Michaela, I think you were number 1. Is that correct? Okay. Have you had time to rethink that? What would you think about number 1?
Sandy was in number 1 with going last week, and I advised her to complete the national level.
All right, good. Yeah, number 1 form, or an excellent form, in great form. All right, good. That would definitely work. All right, number 2, Zach, what have you thought about it now?
From Jeremy's letter, I implied that he finds his class is equal.
Okay, maybe more like, well, no, that would work. From Jeremy's letter, I implied. Okay, that would work. If you want to use inferred, you could put it before and say, I inferred from Jeremy's letter that he now finds his classes to be quite easy. Okay, good. Number 3 was Travis, I think. Okay.
Yeah. While standing on the sidewalk, he tried to see what happened inside the cafe.
Okay. All right, that could work. I think we can make it maybe a little more concise, like saying he stood beside the road and tried to see what was happening inside the cafe. Maybe a little more concise, but your version would definitely work too. All right, good job.
All right.
And then lastly, number 4, to our birthday boy we go. All right, Jeremy. Sorry, that was my fault. I think I remuted you.
Okay. So I put it, there were groups that stayed true to the Bible during the Middle Ages.
Okay, during the Middle Ages. All right, good, because Middle Ages tells us the time period. All right, so good job. Yeah, that would definitely work. Good job. All right, guys, so we'll just keep cleaning up our sentences and keep working through those sort of things. Actually, tomorrow we're going to start with capitalization. You guys, it should be like old news to you and easy peasy because you've had it since like, I don't know, 2nd grade. So I think we'll be moving through that pretty quickly, but we're going to start with that tomorrow. At this point, let's see if my my video works to show it to you. Well, the audio has been the problem with it all this time. So I'm going to unmute you all so you can tell me if you're hearing it, and then we'll see if this works.
This video is an introduction to the Victorian era, the next era of our timeline. And make sure that you're taking notes on
Can you hear it?
lists that you'll be ready to send.
No, still not working. No. That's so annoying.
First, we'll talk about the year.
I wonder if
The Victorian era started and that's because Victoria became
All right, at the moment you can see it and read it for the moment. Let me see if I can turn my headset on and see if you can do that.
of the 1830s. And then we say that the Victorian era lasted until 1901. Queen Victoria, it's important to know, lived a very frugal and prudent lifestyle. So
All right, on YouTube though, you probably hear it, right?
was to expand England and take it through a time of growth. And also then to reform.
Yeah, I can
We're going to talk a little bit about why Victorian England needed reform.
All right, Michaela.
And then how the literature is going to
Michaela,
reflect some of that.
Are you watching it on YouTube?
We're going to talk about some of the reasons.
Oh, no, I was
for
just
the
curious if on
Victorian era.
YouTube you might hear it over the speaker, but you won't see it. You don't see the screen.
The first would be unrestricted immigration.
All right, so here, I'll just read it to us.
We're coming into
as she's
the
going
boundaries of
along.
England without being checked, without
All right,
being
so-
vetted in any way.
Let
Here is
me
an increase.
mute that. Do you hear me still? Do you hear me? Okay. So I just muted the video. Well, I'll just read it to you. So one of the things to talk about during the Victorian era, so if you want to move to your literature book, it's on page 316. Page 316, your literature, that's where we'll be going next. So literature, page 316. In here it mentions Jack the Ripper murders happened in 1888 in the Jewish ghetto of London. This kind of brought about a fear of morality, the concern that people didn't think that lives were important. The Aliens Act of 1905 placed restrictions on Jewish immigration from Eastern Europe. Fears of increased levels of crime and the rise of ghetto communities began to be a concern in England during this time. These are things that are going to lead up to what made the Victorian age the Victorian age. See if I can just move to the next slide. Do her video. I'm sorry I have no audio. I'll work on that, figuring out what to do with that. Victorian fears. Physical and moral decay began to happen. They were fearful of sexually transmitted diseases such as syphilis at the time. That was becoming rampant, and they were getting concerned about that. They had a fear of anything morally corrupt, criminal, and perverse, like Jack the Ripper's murders definitely showcased that fear during this time. The new woman began to emerge during this time period. The term was coined towards the end of the Victorian era to describe women who were women who were taking advantage of newly available educational and employment opportunities. So women were beginning to try to go to work, beginning to try to educate themselves. Women breaking from intellectual and social restraints imposed upon them by a male-dominant society began to reinvent the new woman during this time. The drive for social advancement and reform began to take place. Industrialization and technological advances took place during this, defined social classes. The upper class inherited their wealth, the growing middle class due to industrialization, and then there was the working lower class. And these were beginning to kind of transform a little bit during this time period and beginning to be rethinked a little bit. So that started to play a big role in the Victorian era as well. The drive for social advancement and reform. Reformed Victorian morality and values began to take place. There was severe punishment for crimes, sexual repression and modesty. Sexualized language would be hidden by figurative language. Living by strict social rules. There were a lot of very strict etiquette that had to be followed, especially if you're going to court and things like that. The value of dignity and restraint, yet flourishing prostitution and child labor was taking place at the same time. And then patriarchal family structure was being emphasized during this time period. The themes of the early literature that began to emerge during the Victorian era often involved the drive for social advancement, financial advancement in Charles Dickens' Great Expectations, marrying above one station in Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. Could be intellectual or educational advancement based on just simply advancement. And any attempt to improve one's social standing must be accompanied by a proper behavior, which are characters often giving off a snooty vibe. And you'll see that through a lot of Victorian era writings. The themes in the early literature of the Victorian era, they often involve the drive for social advancement, of course. Oh wait, I just read that. Whoop. There we go. Themes in the later literature. Needs of rebellion against idealized notions and stereotypical codes of conduct began to emerge during the later portion of the Victorian era, sometimes presented as satire because they were afraid to just completely outwardly, totally rebel, so they presented in satire as their rebellion instead. A rise of aestheticism, the art of for art's sake, to directly contradict social and political goals of early Victorian era. That was taking place at the end of that era. Some genres that came out during the Victorian era. We have novels, romance like Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, Gothic or supernatural like Dracula, that was a huge thing during this time, by Bram Stoker, and The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, so that was a big deal. And poetry like Ulysses by Alfred Lord Tennyson. These sort of things were coming out during the Victorian era. All right, so I just want to take a moment to highlight those things, to bring it to our attention before we enter the Victorian era. Tonight, our goal tonight is to read pages 316 to 323. So you're going to start with the Victorian era. You can actually probably skip that page. I just presented that to you with those little notes right there. But 318 through 323, if you want to write that down, are things you want to read through that. So you're going to read all the way through. You ask me why. Before I get off today, we're going to highlight a couple things on page 319. If you don't mind turning your page over to page 319, Ulysses. Ulysses or Odyssey or Odysseus was the hero of many adventures in Homer's Odyssey. Remember that back in like 10th grade, you probably read that story. In Tennyson's poem, he is represented as an old man who desires to turn his kingdom over to his son Telemachus so he can go back out into the world and seek another adventure. Many people consider Ulysses to be Tennyson's greatest poem, perhaps because of its powerful theme to encourage people to keep striving no matter what the end may be. Ulysses as a dramatic monologue, you want to highlight that. Dramatic monologue will be on a future quiz, so be sure you're familiar with that. That's a soul in action, this lyrical poem which reveals a soul in action through the conversation of one character in a dramatic situation. So dramatic monologue, mono meaning one, remember that Latin word, one. So this is conversation between one character in a dramatic situation. The theme of this is keep striving no matter what the end may be. So you might want to highlight that. It was a little bit above dramatic monologue. Keep striving no matter what the end may be. You might want to mark that as the theme for Ulysses. That's the theme of this one. All right, so guys, that's your guys' homework for tonight, just simply to read this literature. I think I unmute all. All right, there we go. So if you guys want to say anything before you leave, you want to say goodbye to each other, whatever, I'm going to give you a moment to go ahead and do that if you would like before I end the meeting. And then we'll see you again over here tomorrow at 11. All right, any questions? No goodbyes? You guys are so quiet. Okay. All right, well, happy birthday, Jeremy. I hope your day finds something fun to do in it. And we wish you a happy birthday. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow morning at 11. All right, bye, guys.